He spent 10 weeks in the NICU, and then we came home, and he was just wonderful, cute as a button, like super quiet, really easy. Great little baby. And Julia loved on him. It was perfect. We were like, oh, we could totally do this again. So we literally got pregnant right after, like we were in the hospital still and got pregnant. So we had to tell our primary care at that point was a metabolism doctor, Dr. Edward Nealon at Children's in Boston. And I remember getting really nervous when we had to tell him because Beckett was having weekly appointments at the hospital at this point, weekly blood draws. They'd never seen a child quite like him that was surviving in the way that he was. So we were trying to keep really close notes on Beckett. And when we went up to visit, I remember it was in December, and he looked at us and he said, okay, so how do you want to do this? And so we agreed to do monitoring through that pregnancy. And we went for bi-weekly appointments. We had cardio, echograms, we had MRIs. We talked about having a CT scan, and nothing really came up. Everything was kind of, there might be something wrong, but we're not sure. You're fine. Everything's fine. And I was so nervous at that point. I was losing weight. Just in a panic about what we were going to do if this baby was sick. And then around 32, 34 weeks, she kind of stopped growing. She plateaued, which is how it was when I was pregnant with Beckett. He kind of just stopped growing. And so we said, you know what, let's err on the side of caution. We'll deliver her early. We delivered at 38 weeks. And so she was born, and we got to spend maybe 20 minutes with her. Yeah. And they took her to the NICU at the Brigham, and they do a blood test at 2 hours and then at 6 hours. And the test at 2 hours came back positive for the metabolic acidosis. And so they redid the test just to make sure, but it came back positive. So she was sent over to the NICU at Children's, which, I mean, to be quite honest, we were okay with her being positive. I think we were ready. We had a medical supply company that we liked. We had all of the specialists that we liked. We knew the therapy that she would need. We knew how to change a G-tube. We knew how to give meds. So we were kind of old hat at this point. And so we went into the NICU and we picked out our favorite nurses to take care of her. Yeah. And we kind of moved into our old incubator space and made a bunch of noise and decorated everything like weirdos. And it was great. I think it felt very natural because we'd done it before. I think the first time when you have a child that's sick, it's so new and foreign, and there's so many things you have to know and pick up on, and there's so much happening, and it's very overwhelming on top of the fact that you just had a baby. And with Clementine, we felt reassured, kind of. We knew the care that she was going to get, and we knew that she would be okay because Beckett at this point was doing awesome.
That was probably the hardest part. We were so confident because we had the best medical team in America. Probably, I would love to say the world. I can't prove that. But in America, for sure, the best team. Because we were such frequent flyers, it was like they were our, they were like our adopted, like they really made you feel like, hey, these are our kids too. Like, not once did we feel like the kids were just a patient. Like, we had the same nurses, we had the same doctors, and they were all rooting for us. So that though it might seem minute at the time, it's just enough to be like, we could do one more. We could have one more kid.
We had a great support system, and I think we kind of forced our family and friends along for the ride. We kind of said, we modeled the behavior of this is how we're doing it. Yeah. We're going to go, like when we came home with Beckett, we agreed that we weren't going to dwell on the fact that they weren't going to live forever. Like, I definitely knew that was definitely tucked away in the folds of my brain that he was on borrowed time. But we didn't think about it like, oh, is he going to die today? Like, that was never a thought. Our thoughts were like, what happens when he makes it to preschool? Like, we were looking at preschools with inclusion programs. Like, we were shooting for, they told us when Beckett was born that he was going to die within a week. And then he lived to be 2 weeks old. And then it was 10 weeks and we were leaving. And then it was 6 months and he looked great. And we had another one on the way. And then when Clementine was born a year and 11 days after he was sitting up and looked great and was interacting and would smile at you and was holding toys in his hands and bringing things to midline. And it was great. And we were good.